We are live. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? I mean, no one's in here yet, I don't think. But we are live. Talking tackles today. Offensive tackles in the 2024 NFL Draft. Definitely just specifically tackles. We'll get into the interior offensive line, which I also think is another big need for the Dolphins. Tackle probably isn't as big of a need, but I do think you could see them potentially going a tackle that could play guard year one. Transition to tackle down the line. There's multiple guys in the class that I think they can do that. There's some that are just pure tackles. We'll talk about all those guys, see who's the best fit potentially for the Dolphins, because I do think they will be interested. Even it ends up just being like a pure tackle because of, Armstead potentially retiring, the injuries. I know like Lamb's going to retire after this year. They brought him back on a one-year deal, but just looking ahead to the future, and it's one of the most important positions. Let's see. I don't see my chat. What the heck? The broadcast for you and live private broadcasts are not supported. Anyone? Let me see. I don't have the chat for some reason, so let me pull up YouTube real quick. Where did my chat go? Yeah. I don't even know if people have. Go into my account. I also posted a video on Jordan Morgan today, who I will talk about. Definitely a fan of him as a player. Skip. You did. If you after updating the first working, he can play guard. Do we play him at left guard or right guard? I think it depends on the tackle, but most of them that I've seen, I think a lot of them could be left guards. Like I think it depends what they have more comfortability with playing on the left side or the right side, but I'm kind of looking. I think they're looking to get a left tackle of the future, so I'm imagining they're going to be more of a left guard transition to left tackle. What's up, Scotty and Scotty Joe? How you guys doing? Should I like my own video? I did it. Why is my chat? I have to go to my channel to see it. That's weird. Whatever. And we're going to start talking some players. I guess we'll start with Joe Alt, because why not? I don't think the Dolphins are going to get with him, but I'm trying to go through every prospect. I think after that is where guys start getting interested, but with Alt, he's pretty much the tackle one. He'll go in the top 10. I don't see the Dolphins even having a chance at him, but he's got crazy size and length, really technically sound, moves super well for his size. He's his own scheme type of player, moves really well laterally, really light on his feet, high IQ. His size can get him into trouble, I think, with his balance, and he'll bend at the waist a little bit too much. But overall, he's the tackle one, and I don't expect the Dolphins to really have a chance at him for sure. Okay. So can Wynn play right guard? I'm pretty sure he can. To me, the Dolphins have plenty of guys that can play the guard spots right now. It really just depends on who they end up drafting. If they draft, say, Christian Haynes, a guard in the second round, he played right guard in college, so he'd be more of a right guard. But Barden can play any spot. Fatanu, I would see more as a left guard type of player. But yeah, I think Wynn could do it, but also depends on who they want. Eichenberg, I would definitely leave as a right guard candidate. Obviously, don't want him starting, but definitely leave him as a right guard type, because that's where he was most comfortable. Same with Robert Jones. I think Driscoll as well is also a right guard type of player. They have plenty of guys that can rotate in and out. They just don't have any any starter level players. Alt and Latham are dreams, in my opinion. Yeah, I think there's more of a chance for Latham, but yeah. And he's one of the guys in this class that I think is a tackle that can play guard. There's not everyone. Fuanga at 21 and BB at 55. Yeah, if Fuanga was there, he would be a great pick, because he might even be better at guard at the next level. Wouldn't be surprised about that at all. We'll definitely get to him. That's who actually I'm going to next, because he's my tackle number 2. I have Talisi Fuanga. Hopefully I said that right. All of these names are going to be tough. We're going to get into the BYU and Yale kids, and it's going to be back to back, and it's going to be tough. I might just talk about them together. But yeah, Fuanga, big right tackle that can potentially, I think, even be a better guard at the next level, but I do still think he can be a tackle player. I'm not going to get into, I don't think I'm going to talk about Fatanu and Barton today, because I'm going to talk about them in my interior O-line video or stream, because those guys I really like, but I see them more as guards at the next level. Personally, either better guards than tackles. I think some of these other guys are kind of similar, but yeah. Fuanga, really smooth in his sets. Like, he's so under controlled, really patient as well. Like, he like just reads what the offensive or what the edges are trying to do, and shows some really good independent hand usage, which I think is important. Like, he'll hit you with two hands, but he can also use one hand, control you, reset, use one hand at a time, powerful with those hands. Independent hand usage is really important. Good feet to like mirror and match, really good leverage, understands how to like reset them, recover, just a really overall good player. And like, he dominant, like Latu is my favorite edge, and I feel like Latu definitely struggled with Fuanga compared to the rest of the guys he faced too, which the Pac-12 actually had a decent amount of competition from like tackles and edges, and Fuanga was definitely the best guy I saw. At times I think he can play with a little bit like high pad level, and his technique in the run game isn't as good as it is in pass protection. Like, he'll create some movement, like he has a nasty play style and move people around, but I do think his technique gets a little sloppy at times, more so as a run blocker than in pass protection. And then if he is late off the ball, which he usually isn't, he can lose around the edge. Like, he doesn't have like the crazy explosiveness, but when he's just smooth, times everything off the snap, he'll be fine. Definitely a fan of him as a player. Yeah. Latham will be gone. Latham might be the best of the O-line group. I definitely think it's an option. I have Latham personally as tackle 3, but I have like all Fuanga, Latham all like rated around like the top 12 area. So, however, would you be upset if they didn't draft a line in the first or second round? See, I know a lot of people that would, and I understand that. For me, I'm a big best player available guy, so I'm not gonna like be like crazy upset like if they end up going in a different direction, because sometimes that's just how the draft plays out. Say if they went D tackle first round because that's a huge need, and they ended up going like receiver or edge in the second round because the receiver on the board was way better than the offensive lineman that was on the board, I'm not gonna be mad. Like, if you end up with good players, it is what it is. I do think the Dolphins do a really good job of, with McDaniel's scheme specifically and Tua, making it easy on the offensive line. So I think they can get away with what they have, but I do think I would take an offensive line with one of their first 2 picks for sure. Hello, love the content. Would you be okay with the DT from Illinois in the first round? Yeah, Noon, one of my guys for sure, I think. Like with Futanu, Fuanga, Barton as O-line. I think at D tackle, I'd be cool with both Noon and Murphy. I think they're both really good. And then at edge, I would say Latu and Verse I'm really comfortable with at 21. I don't even know if any of those, like all of those guys could be gone potentially. I do think out of the guys I just named, probably 1 or 2 would still be there, but those are the guys I would definitely probably feel most comfortable with out of the people that are most likely going to be there. Love Armstead, Fuanga, Brewer, BB, AJ. I'll take that all day, every day. Yeah, I just don't know how. Probably not Fuanga. BB, definitely a chance from Kansas State. I'll get into him when I talk more about the guards. What round do we dress safety? They did bring in for a visit today. I'll talk about the 30 visits a little bit later, but they brought in a Kalen Bullock, the USC safety. So I think they might be looking into safety. They obviously brought in Poyer as a 1-year rental. And I do think they're going to go like 3 safeties in the draft. So it's definitely, I do think they could potentially add safety. It's just, I thought that would be more like a 3rd or 4th round type of choice, and they don't have that pick currently. Barton, JPJ, BB, Fitano, first round choices. Don't forget Latu if available. Yeah, I love Latu. Personally, I wouldn't take BB in the first round. I think he's more of a second round player, but yeah. And I think JPJ's sliding a little bit from what I've seen. Like, I do like him as a player. I just don't know if they're going to go center in the first round anymore. He could play guard, though, potentially. I think if they're going to go line, though, it's going to be more of a guy that played tackle that can go to guard, like a lot of these other players. Who are we talking about next? Let's see. Let's talk about Latham. Latham is one of those guys in this class that I do think is a tackle that can potentially play guard as well. I think he's got that skill set. I think he will still easily be a good tackle at the next level, but I do think he can come in and be a really solid guard for a year. So if Latham fell there, I would not mind this pick at all. I'd actually be really happy with this pick. He's got great anchor. He's a really smart player as well. Effortless athlete. He makes everything look easy. Good hands, powerful. I like his technique a lot in pass protection. He's patient, stays balanced, which is very important. And in the running game, he creates a lot of movement when he gets engaged and sustains. I just think his sustaining blocks in the running game can be a little inconsistent. I think sometimes he doesn't latch on and maintain those blocks. He can get a little wild, trying to create movement. So I think he becomes a little more consistent there. And then same thing with like attacking inside counters. If he loses in pass protection, usually it's after an inside counter. So those are the areas where I could see him improving, but really like him all around as a player. Like athleticism's there, power's there, technique, and he's a pretty smart player. Like identifying twists and stunts, like there's not too many negatives when it comes to his games, other than like little things. So things that he can definitely work on. But yeah, big fan of Latham. Probably my tackle 3, and that guy I think will definitely be a boost if he ended up on the Dolphins. Let me see. I can see safety in the 5th. Maybe pick. Yeah, I'm when I do a safety stream, we'll definitely talk about safeties a lot because there's a lot of safeties that I like. I don't think there's any like top first round players in this class, but there's a lot of players that I think are interesting. And if they want to take one in like the 5th round, I would be down because I do think safeties end up kind of falling later on. Do you think they still need options with linebacker? I really don't see them going linebacker in this draft. I think, it's always possible. Sometimes, that guy ends up being the best player available and they go linebacker. But they, I think with everything they've added, they're probably fine at that position, especially considering this draft class. It's not the strongest. Love your channel, bro. Appreciate it. Elliott's tackle against Dallas put us in the playoffs. Yeah, I think Elliott was pretty solid for them last year. I mean, he's gone now. Poyer comes in and is going to be, I think, a solid 1-year player for them. But I do think with, the new defense, a new defensive scheme, especially with, Anthony Weaver coming from the Ravens, they're going to be running more 3 safety sets. So I do still think they do need a safety back there with Holland. And I'm not against, there's multiple different types. I'll get more into that, but yeah. I have it all Latham Fatanu with Fatanu best fit first realistic having shot bigger than I. Yeah, I'm just rating Fatanu as more of a guard as a tackle, but Fatanu is one of my favorite players in this class. I love Fatanu. Like Fatanu is probably my dream option at 21, like top player that I think has a chance of being there. I still don't think he's going to fall there, but I think out of the guys that have a chance, Fatanu is probably my favorite guy in this class. Does signing Lamb reduce the possibility of early O-line in the draft? I don't think so. If you watch the video, Lamb was like, this is his last ride, 1 year, going for it. They're just bringing him in for depth, especially with all the injuries that the O-line has had. I don't think it changes them at all. Yeah, I'm about to talk about Amarius Mims next. And there's a lot of like raw, inexperienced O-line in this class. And out of those guys, Mims is definitely my favorite out of them. I actually think, for him having the lack of experience, he was better than I thought he was going to be. I think he showed he was less raw than I expected, which was good. Like he has ideal size and athletic traits, which you see. And even when he doesn't know what he's doing, he still just wins those. What is happening? Oh, I'm getting some bitrate problems. Let me know if it starts lagging. Okay, in the chat, I'm getting like a warning sign. So hopefully it all goes back up. But I think it's might be lagging a little bit. It looks like it's going back up. So hopefully that's all good. But yeah, Mims, great, perfect like size and athletic traits. Really young, amazing length, play strength, and even when I think he doesn't know exactly what he's doing, when it comes to like his hands, his base, he still wins all of his reps, which is insane. So if he gets more experience, I feel good about him as a tackle. I will say though, I think Fuanga and Latham are more suited to slide inside just with their play styles and stuff. So I don't know if Mims would be like a guard option for them as well. Is it lagging in here for the video, guys? Because I'm getting like some warning about the bitrate dropping. I think it looks good. Maybe the quality got worse. I don't know. Hopefully it's fine. Don't forget Mims, but he's a right tackle. Doesn't that limit us in your opinion? Oh, you're talking about Mims? I think, potentially. I mean, you never know. Sometimes these guys, how do you do against the big boys in the SEC? Like Mims, in pretty much every matchup, kind of dominated. You could even against the great players, you can just tell at times the inexperience was there with his technique. But I still think he's one of those guys that can easily be developed. And you never know. I'm not going to say he can for sure play on the left side, but sometimes those players transition to the other side and they end up being even better. So if he did come to them, he would be definitely groomed to play left tackle. You're lagging for me? Little laggy, not bad. What the heck? Oh, that sucks. Oh yeah, I'm lagging bad. What the fuck? Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it's not lagging for everyone, but damn. Okay, well, just gonna keep going until it maybe it just falls apart. We'll talk about Fashanu from Penn State. Another guy that I like in this class, and I see him actually dropping in some of the mock drafts. I don't know if he'll be there at 21. I do like him, but I don't know if I would a guy I would be super excited about. I actually hope he goes before 21 because I do think he's a tackle only type of player. I don't know if he has the type of strength and anchor to play on the inside and with his pad level, and I don't think he's much of a creator in the running game, creating displacement. But he has really good size and athleticism, really nimble on the edge. That's why I think he's more built as like a tackle. Like he shows a much better like anchor, I think, on the outside. But yeah, quality versus speed rushers trying to get to the corner like definitely shows out his athletic ability on those types of plays. Everyone hit the like button, right? Always gives personal work. Appreciate that, Jose. I mean, yeah, hit the like button. It definitely helps out. I don't really know how it all ends up playing out. Oh, it looks like my bitrate's back up. Cool. I was dropping frames. Don't know what these numbers mean that I'm looking at, guys, but it wasn't good. But yeah, Fashanu, not a guy I'm like, I would say out of the guys in the first round, I would more be interested in like the Oregon State right tackle Fuanga and Latham as the top guys. Don't think they're going to be there at 21 though, unfortunately. Mims also seems like a Greer guy. I could definitely see Greer being interested. Don't think it would be the worst pick. Probably wouldn't be my top option, but I think as like a future pick, because I don't think Mims would see as much playing time in year one. It wouldn't be bad. But I think like Latham Fuanga would play right away. I think Fashanu would also be a type of future pick type of player. That's why I'm more want to see guys that can play year one at least at guard and then next playing at tackle. Jordan Morgan, I made a video on him today. You guys might have seen him. And apparently, like, I know I've seen some other creators talk about it. Apparently, like, teams like the Cowboys have him they're looking at him as a guard. They see Jordan Morgan as a guard at the next level. He played left tackle, looks solid, really good athlete. Wouldn't mind seeing him play guard. I think he's more of like a trade back target, I would say. I think he's a first round player, but if the Dolphins end up trading back, I think Jordan Morgan would be a decent option, depending if they trade how far they end up trading back. Definitely would be a fan of that move. Love his ability. He's a really good athlete, mobile. His patience and pass protection. Like if you want to see my the full on breakdown with him, just go watch that video. It was like posted at like 5 hours ago today. So he's really good at identifying pass rush plans. Recovers super well. His feet are amazing. His reaction in the run game is really good too. Like he's not a perfect run blocker, but he makes a lot of good like reaction decisions just to shield people off positioning. I do think he can do a better job sustaining and finishing in the run game. Definitely want to see more of that. And but yeah, really enjoy watching his ability and pass protection. I think he'd be a really solid guard at the next level, probably even a better guard than a tackle. So yeah, that's Is Christian Haynes any good? Yes. Big fan of Christian Haynes, and I will talk about him a lot in my guards video. If he was there at 55, I think he would probably be one of the better picks at 55, especially because I do think he would be a nice scheme fit in the offense, would scheme fit well, and he has the movement skills, all of those things. I'll do a breakdown on Christian Haynes for sure in the future. Definitely we'll see that one on the channel. And who are we getting to next? Tyler Guyan, another guy who I think will go in the first round. He's another tackle-only type of player. I don't think he would switch and decide to guard. And he's also kind of raw. I think he's like the next raw tackle that has needs a little bit of development. Personally, I don't think the Dolphins should take him. Definitely not one of my first options. I do like him as a player, but I would not take him at 21. It's just not my type of player. He's really good athlete. He's like a former H-back. He started out as like an H-back. He's got powerful hands, stays under control. He's really patient, has quality knee bend, which is a good thing because he's a taller player, plays with knee bend. And for a raw player, he's actually really good at like recognizing stunts, which is another big thing. So I think that's something when people are like kind of raw, like technically, they're also usually inexperienced and cannot always like, the best mental players processing everything around him. I do think Guyan, even though he's raw technically, he is good at processing what's going on. So, but his hand placement and timing are a little off. Love to see that stuff improved. I think he struggles with like the really bendy speed guys getting around the edge. So he needs, work on protecting that edge. My notes went away. Here we go. And then, yeah, just being better leverage in the run game, better playing with pad level, that comes with like his height and stuff like that. You're not going to always create a ton of movement with those types of things, but wouldn't it be like out of the guys we talked about, I think guys that I really like in the Dolphins offense is Fuanga, I think Latham, which are probably both unrealistic for them. I think, talk about Jordan Morgan, a guy that I do think would be on the board at 21 for sure, but I think he's more of a guy you trade back for, but I think would be a really good fit in the Dolphins offense. I obviously love Fatanu and Bard, and I'm going to talk about more about them in the interior video because those are two of my favorite options at 21. I think it'd be amazing. And then, yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about those top guys. I kind of think those are probably the first round guys, in my opinion, that go for the tackle position. Just mentioned them all. I don't know. And maybe just O-line in general. Like that might be all the first round offensive linemen that I've talked about. I've heard also Patrick Paul might go in the first round. And I'm not a fan of that personally. I think there's a lot of negatives to his game. And I think he's another guy that might not translate as well to the next level. Like he's got really good size. And I think he's just one of those players I let another team take a chance on. He might end up working out, but I'm not the one to take. Like he's got elite size and length. He really does. And he's actually pretty decent in pass pressure. Like he's very patient. He can stonewall, like just understands his pass sets, like how to, leverage, play half man. But he's like his size, he doesn't have like that Joe Wall athleticism with his size. He's slow footed. He lumbers. He's kind of over reliant on his size as well. Like really relies on just bullying people at times and just can get a little, I feel like lazy is not the right word, but yeah, he can just rely too much on the size and be lazy with his technique, I guess. But he's not lazy. But he's just a slow mover in the run game. You're not going to see him like cut anyone off on the backside of runs if they have the leverage advantage naturally, unless the player is just not very good. But yeah, those are my concerns with Patrick Paul as a player. What do you think about Kingsley Suamataia? He is who we're talking about next. I have notes on him. Tackle slash guard Dominic Pooney at 55. Yes, I actually have notes on Pooney, and I see him more as a guard, so I'm going to really talk about him in the guard video or the interior offensive line video. But yeah, I do like him as well as a second round option because his versatility is insane. But yeah, we're going to get to Kingsley, and who's the BYU tackle, and then the Yale tackle, whose name I still don't know how to pronounce, so I'm not even going to try it, but they're both kind of similar to me. They're both the second round high athlete traits type of players. That's kind of what I'm thinking with those guys. Like, I could see the Dolphins being interested in them, and they wouldn't be the worst picks at 55. But I also could see them very well both being gone. But yeah, very traitsy prospect. Like Kingsley is very good size and length and athletic ability. He's probably the one I like more of the two. I think he looks better on the right though. Like he's played both right and left tackle, and I think he looks better as a right tackle. Nice recovery ability, has some good power and strength overall. Yeah, he's just raw, needs better handwork, and I think his balance can also be a little bit iffy. I like guys with I think balance is a really important trait for offensive linemen, and I think he'll end up on the ground a little too often for my liking, which is something that I definitely value at the tackle position. Same thing with the Yale tackle. They have a lot of similarities. They're both good size and athleticism, but both raw. Okay, we'll talk about the Yale tackle Karan. I'm not going to try. He's got ridiculous arm length and athleticism. Only problem is he was at Yale and he faced like not great competition. And it's like kind of harder to find film on that right now. So I've seen just a little bit, but he's got ridiculous arm length, ridiculous athleticism, just very raw, but has all the physical and athletic traits you want. And then his hands just needs to really work on his hand placement, the timing, and just inconsistent all around. He'll lunge, get overextended, things like that. It's just a technical issue with him. But yeah, those guys super talented. Let's see. What do you think about Christian Mahogany would be available? I do think Mahogany will be at 55. I think I have Mahogany more as like a late second, early third round player, but I do really like him. I made a video on Mahogany probably a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I like Mahogany. I think there's a lot of good traits to him. I think he would be a solid player. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst pick at 55 for sure. Maybe if they traded back and they still took Mahogany, I would definitely be a fan of that. He was probably the best player. I think Mahogany was really good at identifying twist and stunts. He was probably the best player I saw versus twists and stunts and pass protection in this class. Like just the amount of time, like every play I became away super impressed with him. They were always against like stunts and stuff. So I do like Mahogany a lot because of the those reasons. You can tell he definitely understands how to play the game. Trade down and get 2 of these O-line and snag look at. Yeah, I mean, it depends on where they trade down to, but I'm always up for a trade down. I've been team trade down for a long time. Ever since I've gone into the draft, I would always be looking to trade down because, especially in this draft, the Dolphins need extra picks. And, oops, click the button. But yeah, they lacking on picks, and I think that's definitely a direction I'll be looking to go for sure. Okay, out of the day 2 tackles, I'm about to talk about probably my 2 favorites. Yes, and apparently, so we're about to talk about Blake Fisher and Roger Rosengarten. They're probably my 2 favorite tackles to watch on the day 2, but I've seen them more put in I've even seen Rosengarten put in the 4th round and stuff. And I think I like Fisher and Rosengarten more than Paul and the 2 other tackles I just talked about that I can't pronounce their name. But yeah, I definitely am a fan of them. I think Blake Fisher can play both right tackle and left tackle from Notre Dame, so he definitely is very technically sound, very refined with his hands, and he's got good length. He's got good explosiveness out of his kick slide. That first step explosiveness is pretty good. I think, he could be a little bit of a better athlete overall, but you could see that quick explosiveness right away, which is important. But he's got good hands. He knows how to reset them. He identifies twists and stunts pretty well. And then I would like to see him maybe be more of a mover in the running game versus D lineman. But when he does climb to the second level, he'll bully some linebackers. So it's not like he lacks the willingness. It's just sometimes he doesn't have the greatest strength overall in those areas. But I think it's more of a leg drive thing. He can get better leg driving when he's base blocking. If he attacks the low hip on a combo, he can move people. But when he's straight up base blocking, I think he doesn't create as much space. And then yeah, just more strength and anchor pass route. But I really like him as a player, technically refined. I just like players that are. I feel there's floor players and then there's the ceiling players. And to me, I usually like floor players better because I also feel like they can still improve, but they're already good right now. While some of the other guys they still have a lot to learn to really take the next step. So and to me, I'm just I'd rather just take the player that I think's really good right now and could still slightly improve than the player that's kind of good right now and could improve a lot. I would just rather fill my team up with the really, really good players. Okay. And then Rosengarten. His range in pass protection is the best I've seen in this class, man. It's ridiculous. I made a video on Rosengarten a while ago. Right tackle for Washington. He played across from Fatanu, obviously. So Fatanu was left tackle. He was right tackle. His range is ridiculous. Sometimes he'll overset. It doesn't matter. His recovery ability is amazing. He has some of the best footwork, base, balance in this class. His mobility overall is amazing. I would like to see more in the running game, but you get to see him show off his movement skills in the running game at least. He can still work on things with his angles and stuff like that in the running game. He doesn't have the greatest power, but that guy moves about as well as anyone in this class when it comes to offensive line play, especially in pass protection. It's really, really impressive. And I also think he's got good hands. He's precise with his hands. He understands how to refit them and reset the hands really quick with it as well. And then just overall, the movement skills in space too. That's where you get to see him. If he makes an impact in the running game, usually it's more of him pulling or, it's maybe on a screen out in space. You get to see off the movement skills as well. But yeah, definitely a fan of him in pass protection. I think that's the same. Him and Fisher are both really good in pass protection right now. They're both more pure tackles as well. Rosengarten is definitely a tackle. Fisher might be able to do some guard work, but I think he's more of a tackle too. I think all of these guys, really everyone I've talked about, from Guyton to Kingsley to the Yale tackle to Patrick Paul to Fisher to Rosengarten, they're all more tackles than guards that can slide into tackle. We've already talked about some of the guards that can slide it, or some of the tackles that slide into guard. And then some of the guys like Fatanu and Barden were tackles in college, but they're probably going to be more guards at the next level because I think they'll be better players there, at least on a more consistent basis, and I think they could be elite at that position. And those are probably now we've talked about all the day 1, day 3 tackles, and I like Fisher and Rosengarten probably the most out of them at the day 2 tackles. We talk about day 1, day 2. And I think they'd both actually be decent fits as tackles in the Dolphins scheme. I just don't know if they're going to go for them because they are not the guard versatility. Boom. Let's see. Okay, cool. I was gonna show some clips, but I think something's wrong with my computer, so I'm just not gonna show those clips right now, but maybe later. I've already gotten some. If you want to see clips on Rosengard, I have a video out on him. You should check that out. And video on Jordan Morgan was posted today. If people want to see that, I really, really am a big fan of him. Yeah. Now we're getting to some guys who are a little more like fourth roundish players. You could see them going earlier, maybe even some fifth rounders as well. But yeah, like the day 3 guys. Usually when you start to me, there's some positions that like have a lot of success in the NFL, like statistically that got taken later later in the draft, like running backs, for example. Like a lot of late round running backs find success in the NFL. Tackle is not one of those positions. Usually it's like a lot of the best tackles in the league are picked within the first 3 rounds. So that's why I would like, if they're going to go tackle, you go tackle early. Start going for the other positions later, like receiver, running back, safety. Those usually you can find some good players there at those positions later in the draft. But yeah, but these guys I think have a chance. I think Matt Goncalves from Pittsburgh. I don't know how to say his name, I'll be honest. Played both tackle spots. Shows some heavy hands, good patience as well in pass protection. I feel like he was a tough player, tough and smart, which I like to see. Like very tough, would throw it around, move people, get very aggressive. Identified twists and stunts really nicely, so you can see off like his mental processing. I don't think he really had any elite traits, but technically sound for sure. The reason he's not as high up is because he's not doesn't have the great athleticism. He also had an injury this past season, I'm pretty sure, which ended up costing him some time. And then that athleticism, he loses to speed to the outside as well, which that's where it ends up showing up. Good point, Ryder. Yeah. That the tackles is, if you're gonna go tackle, you go tackle early. You end up taking tackle late. I feel like those guys never work out. It just take the traits guy that it's a very hard position to. That's why I'm always taking guys that are just good right away, because it's very hard for those people to really develop. I think certain positions that are easier, and yeah. And I just really, this offensive line class is really good. So I mean, take some of these guys at the top, whether it's tackle or guard, even some centers too. We'll do like all interior line in one video or one stream. And I'm going to try to do at least positions that I think the Dolphins are going to go for. I'm going to do D-line, I'm going to do interior offensive line, I'm going to do edge. I did receiver already, I did that last week. I'll probably do safeties. I might just do DBs as a whole, because I think, you never know. The Dolphins love to take corners in the draft, so when they don't need to. So I'm going to just do DBs as a whole. And then I'll probably hit tight ends as well. Probably won't do a running back or quarterback stream. I might do running backs, maybe some late round guys just for fun. But yeah, probably won't do linebackers. Maybe we'll see. But I'm definitely gonna focus on the positions I think are the biggest needs right now. But yeah. The next tackle, Christian Jones from Texas. Wouldn't say he's my type of player. He's another one that isn't super athletic. He's very tight, not a fluid athlete, and he also is like doesn't have the greatest hands and pass protection. And I think he can work on like his balance. I think he'll lunge a little bit too much. Pad level is also an issue, and I think those things are very important to tackle play. Now he does play with high effort. Got to give him that. Like he's a high effort player, plays with some toughness, good length. I think he's more of a run blocker than a pass protector. So if you want a guy that's go out there create some movement in the running game, he's a good guy. He works good on combos, attacking the low hip. So if the team wants a tackle type player that's more of a run game worker, he's definitely that. But I don't think he's the best fit for the Dolphins offense. But yeah, he's another player that's probably going to go in that same sort of range, maybe round 4, round 5. Let's see. Isaiah Adams from Illinois, I believe, which Illinois actually had a lot. Like there's a lot of players that I keep watching from Illinois that are like draftable that I actually end up like liking. So it's pretty fun. Isaiah Adams, he's a guy that played tackle at Illinois, but I think he's probably better suited to play guard at the NFL. Just his play style, it just fits it better. He's got a nasty play style. He's definitely tough, plays hard. He doesn't have like the greatest athleticism. Another guy that's not going super high enough because of great athleticism. That's why I think, he slides more into the inside because it also fits his size, his play style. And the other guys are more tackles just due to their, sometimes just it's your build and the way you move. And I think, the way Adams moves, he's more of a guard. And I think the reason, I wouldn't, think the Dolphins end up taking him is because he's not the quickest laterally, which the Dolphins end up looking for. And another weakness of him, I like guys who have good recovery skills because everything just doesn't always go perfect for them. Like Roger Rosengarten, the reason I really love him, his recovery skills insane. Sometimes, you don't take the perfect angle, you lose a rep, you're facing really good players, you're able to recover, get back into a spot, and make an amazing play. And I find if players good at recovering, they usually end up being good at the next level as a guy. So like I see a guy with good recovery skill, that's how I end up feeling they're gonna be good. We saw what McDaniel's offense can be. We saw the line, fix it, and let's fucking go. Yep. I mean, I definitely think they're gonna address it. Sometimes, you never know how it plays out, so maybe they just end up not doing it. But I do think it is definitely a position they're gonna be interested, whether it's tackle, guard, one like both, or a guy that can do both, or they just go after one of those spots. I do think it ends up getting addressed fairly early. You never know with trades happening, trade back, trade forth. I see them going edge in first round, O-line in second round. I could definitely see that combo for sure. The edge one is just weird to me because if Phillips and Chubb are healthy, edge is not a need at all. It's actually probably one of the biggest strengths on the team. But since Phillips and Chubb aren't healthy, it's like, oh, now we have to take an edge. But do you take one early? Because then when Phillips and Chubb come back, they're not going to see much playing time. So that's why if they do want to go, like this is one of the things I thought about, Darius Robinson from Missouri. And I think I saw CK Parrott also mention on Twitter. I mentioned it on a stream like a while ago. But he's a guy that played edge at Missouri. And I think he'll go to the NFL level and also play defensive tackle. Like he'll be a 5-tech, 3-4 defensive end type of player that can play some edge, especially on obvious running downs, but then also rotate inside on obvious passing downs and play like as an interior 3-tech. I think that if the Dolphins end up like maybe trading back a few spots, taking Darius Robinson in the first round, he kind of kills two birds with one stone because he ends up being like filling that edge spot early for you while you still need edge help, but then also goes in and ends up playing defensive tackle because you also need D tackle help because it ends up filling in two spots, which would be for sure. Can't have too many edges, not possible in my opinion. I mean, I'm not mad. If they took Latu or something at edge in the first round, I wouldn't be mad. It's just once Phillips and Chubb come back, our D coordinator comes from the Ravens, they only really used a 3-man edge rotation. He probably wouldn't see that much playing time. He'd only seen like a few snaps once they come back healthy. So that's why I would be like, there's probably other players you could go after that could see way more playing time. But yeah, I do agree. Edge is definitely one of like the top 4 positions I think they're looking at to go in the draft. Yeah, but like talking about Robinson, I think Robinson kind of kills that, defensive tackle need and edge need at the same time. That's kind of like how I feel about them taking a tackle that can also play guard because they kind of both fill those needs at the same time. So and there's another player like Brandon Dorless. He's a guy who's a smaller interior D tackle. He's kind of like a player I really like from Oregon, so they attack him, which I would also love to see him as an interior D line option. He's kind of more of like a late round 2, early round 3 type though. So that would be for sure. How do you feel about Patrick Paul? I talked about Patrick Paul earlier, and personally, I'm not a huge fan. I just, he has elite size and length. He's very patient in pass protection. Actually, did a pretty good job in pass protection at the college level. Stonewall understands his pass sets, but I just feel like he's slow, like a slow-footed athlete. He lumbers around, and I feel like it's like he's like a slow mover in the running game, and it's in pass protection. And I just feel like he's not a great fit for the Dolphins. Like overall, I don't think he's the athlete they're looking for. And I think from what I've seen, he's like been sneaking into the first round, and people think he might go first round, and I would definitely not be interested. If they took him at 55, it's like, okay, it is what it is. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but yeah, he's just not a player I'm taking in the first round. Robinson would be a great day 2 pick. Yeah, I just don't think Robinson would be there at 55. I don't really think that's going to happen. He'd be more of a guy you trade back and take, or I guess trade up from 55 and take. What about Rook? When we do the defensive tackle stream out, we'll really get into, Rook from Clemson, Rook, whatever it is. But yeah, he's another guy I think is an option at 55. Like I think, they don't go D tackle in the first, which is to me, the only 2 defensive tackles worth the first round pick is Newman and Murphy. And then potentially Robinson if he's going to play D tackle. but he's like a D tackle edge hybrid. But yeah, Newton and Murphy are like the first round D tackles. I would be cool with both of them. I know I've seen people say Newton a lot. To me, Newton and Murphy are both really, really good, and I would be happy with either. I think those are two picks I would be really excited about if they went in that direction. Yeah, Rook, you could see the athleticism and the power he can play with. Like, it flashes. I still think he's a little like raw technically. So he has all the traits that you can't teach, and there's some things, he needs to learn, but those are things that can be taught. So you take a guy like that in the second, I'm definitely down for that. And then who haven't I talked about yet? Okay, there's a tackle from Utah. Another name that is hard to pronounce. The tackles have the hardest pronounced names. I don't know why. It's always like that. I definitely need to see more. Like him and this guy from Missouri, I just didn't have a ton of film on them. They were guys I wanted to talk about, so I only saw a tiny bit on them. But he was pretty interesting. I think he's a guy that could be probably a better guard at the next level, just due to his size and play. But he had some pretty good power to his game. He was a decent athlete. I don't think he has the natural knee bend that you need to play tackle. You can be more of a waist bender and play on the interior, which I think, he was more of a waist bender. You don't want to be a waist bender, but you can get away from it. You can get away with it more as a guard. So, yeah. And then same thing with the Javon Foster from Missouri. He's another guy that's intriguing. He only allowed 1 sack last season in 2023. So, and he has the size, length. He's pretty quick out of his stance. He identifies twists pretty well. Some good strength or grip strength with his hands. But he needs to understand he doesn't have the great he doesn't have great strength to drive with his legs. And he's more of a tackle, I think. But yeah, he's just inconsistent with footwork, pad level. Needs to understand how to use his length and stuff better. But yeah, he's another player that's kind of intriguing. And those guys are all probably round 4, round 5 type players. Yeah. What's the lowest if Vince could trade down and still get a quality D-line? Are you talking about in the first? Because the D-line class is actually pretty good. In the first, I don't know. Because in the first, I'm only thinking Newton and Murphy are really your options in the first round if you really wanted to go there. So I don't think you trade down. You probably, if you want one of the defensive tackles, you probably just take them at 21, Newton and Murphy. I think all the other defensive tackles are second round players. But I like a lot of the second round D tackles. I could see Fisk actually, Fisk from Florida State, cheating into the first. But I think he probably goes second. Same with Rook. Chris Jenkins is another one who's super athletic and really good size. He just needs to, if he learns how to have a pass rush plan, he could be really good. He's a round 2 guy. I think Dorless is a round 2 guy. I think Devondre Sweat is a round 2 guy. All guys that are very intriguing. And then there's some guys that are more round 3, round 4 guys that I think could be interesting. And the Dolphins end up with one of those picks like Dwayne Carter, Christian Boyd, who they had on a 30 visit. Oh yeah, they had some 30 visits too. I know that Kalen Bullock came in, and I like Dorless. DT is a must. Yes, DT tackle is definitely a big need. I think it's one of the Fisk got that motor. Yes, he does, and he's very quick. I'm a big fan of him. Is Sweat there in the second? I think he would be. Sweat wouldn't be one of my top options, to be honest. I think he's a nose tackle only. He's just huge, and usually when a guy is that big, you got to think about how Wilkins and Sealer played a ridiculous amount of snaps last year, ridiculous, unheard of snaps from defensive tackles. So now you lost one of them, and you got to replace that. And I think if you draft Sweat, you got to realize he's not going to play anywhere near amount of those snaps. He's a nose tackle. He's huge. He's going to get tired a lot more easy. I think he does a really good job stopping the run, but he's a little more one-dimensional, being that type of nose tack, really powerful at the point of attack. So he wouldn't be my top option, but I definitely wouldn't be mad at that pick in the second. I do think he goes in the second. Will he make it to 55? Not sure. It probably goes around that range if I had to guess. It's just sometimes those nose tackles be a little more tricky to see where they end up going in the draft. But yeah, talked about all the tackles, I'm pretty sure. At least saw we talked about. I saw someone ask about Mims, so I could talk about Mims again because I think they missed it. But yeah. I think out of the traitsy guys that I talked about, the guys that have a lot of traits, they're a little more inexperienced, a little more raw. Mims is definitely the best of those guys. Because a lot of those guys who showed off traits, they would lose still, in certain situations. But I feel like Mims still won a lot of his reps, even when he didn't look like he knew what he was doing. And he was facing, the best of the best college talent, in the SEC. Really, just all the physical traits you want, size, length, athletic traits. I thought he was also less raw than what I was expecting. When I watched him play, I was expecting him to be like, have no clue what's going on. But really, it was just, he was inexperienced because of the injuries and he didn't get to see the playing time. So, I think he can, learn some things. It was more like he understood like what he's supposed to do with his hands, but I think he can be like more nuanced, be more independent with his hands, do things like that. And I think, leg drive, like once he gets sustained in the running game, like leg drive, like he just tries to bully people using, his upper body alone. But yeah, it's just like little things with Mims. But I do think Mims does feel like a Greer type player. And at 21, it definitely wouldn't be the worst pick. Not my first option, but it wouldn't be the worst pick. Keep up the great content, love. Great, I can't read. Keep up the great content, bro. Love your stuff. I appreciate that, Darbs. Let's see. Mims is too injury prone. Greer would love him too. That always plays into it, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, yeah, the injury thing definitely a thing to pay attention to. But I mean, a lot of players end up getting injured, and sometimes players go to the league and they don't end up being. They end up. I've seen players never get injured in college and they go to the NFL and can't stay healthy, and then vice versa. Sometimes you just got to get lucky. Talked about all. Yeah, first round guys, we'll just do a little recap. Out of the first round guys, Fuanga, Latham are guys that play tackle that I think can easily be good NFL tackles, but I could see if they ended up falling to Dolphins, which I don't expect them to, they can also be, I think, very good guards at the NFL level. So those would be like really good picks. They could be your guard and then slide to tackle in the future. But yeah, those, and then same with Jordan Morgan, but he's a little bit of a late first rounder. So if you traded back, I think Jordan Morgan's an option. And then Fatanu and Barton, I'm going to really get into in my other stream because I think they're more of interior offensive linemen, but they're also two of my favorite options in the first round. So Fatanu, Fuanga, Barton, Latham, probably I think 4 guys at 21 you're looking for, but I don't know if any of them will be there. I literally don't think Fuanga will be there. I don't think Fatanu will be there. I don't think Latham will be there. And now I'm also starting to think after Barton's pro day, he might not even be there. And I really like Barton. So, but to be fair, if all those guys don't end up going, that means you're probably going to get, a decent look at one of those edge or defensive tackle players that you also like. So there's definitely going to be options there on both sides of the trenches that you're looking at, and I definitely wouldn't be mad if they go in either of those directions. I think Buffalo had the same starting 5 line for all 17. Yeah, it was ridiculous, bro. They had some crazy stuff. I think the O-lines it's going to be on like the board, honestly. I think I'm trying to think. Like been trying to do. I think one of the top 5 tackles might be. I think there's a chance maybe like a Mims, a Fashanu, or a Latham will be there. Like out of the top 5 tackles, I think there's a decent chance of that happening. But will be the guy you want? Who knows? And then out of the top guards, I think Fatanu will be gone, and I think there's a chance Barton's there. It just depends how it ends up playing out. I think, Guyton will be there, but I don't want them to take Guyton at 21. I think Morgan will be there, but I don't think they should take him at 21, even though I do really like him as a player, so I wouldn't be that mad. And then the rest of the guys are all round 2 players. If they picked any of them, I would be pretty shocked and disappointed as well. Yeah. Barton has 32-inch arms on a tackle. No, Barton is a guard for sure. That's why I'm going to talk. That's why I didn't do full on notes on Barton and Fatanu, because I think Fatanu can play tackle at the next level, but I think he's going to be an elite guard at the next level. And then I didn't talk about Barton, even though he played tackle, or do the notes on him, because I think Barton is going to be a guard and potentially a center. He's played every spot. That guy is legit. And you get him and he can start at right guard, left guard, whatever you want. Yeah. D-line in the first, O-line in the second. That might be the way to go, thinking about it. But if they go O-line in the second, I hope it's a guard or someone that can be a tackle that goes to guard, because I don't love the tackles as much in the second round, especially because I don't think many of those tackles in the second round area are guys that can slide in and play guard. I think they're more tackle onlys. That's why I would go after Haynes or Mahogany or McCormick or BB or something like that. I'd rather them do that guard in the second, and then or Dominic Cooney from Kansas. Those are the guys I would be looking at. Some of them could also even go a little later than that too. And then, yeah, the rest of the tackles, probably not going in there in the second round, at least personally. And then if you go D-line, you have to hope even, Murphy or Noon are even there. And if they're not, then I guess you could go edge. And then if, all those guys are gone, you just trade back. and I would be totally down to trade back. Barton hasn't played center since high school. I'm telling you right now, Barton could do anything, man. That guy can play any spot. That's why I'm listing him as a guard, though. I think he should play guard. But if you needed him to play center, that guy can play center. He can do it all. But yeah, and if the Dolphins drafted him, he wouldn't be playing center. He would be playing guard. Yeah, either left guard or right guard. I don't think they would ask him to play tackle. I don't think they'd ask him to play center. I'm imagining he could really do either, left or right. It just depends on how comfortable they feel about with the other players. Maybe put him at right because they feel most comfortable with Win, or you put him at left, have him start there, and then have all the other guys fight for the right guard spot. But yeah. Greer will not draft interior O-line in the first round. I've seen people say this, and I don't think it's true. I know it just hasn't happened, but I think if the interior offensive lineman is the best player on the board, especially someone like Barton who can play, so many different spots, I think they would massively consider Graham Barton, especially if he's the highest player on the board. I think they're just going to take the highest player on the board. I know he values the premium positions, which I have no problem. Go with, an edge defender, go with a tackle that can play guard. But I do think Barton is definitely an option because, it's like saying, are they not going to draft Troy Fatanu if he's there at 21? Because they think he's going to be left tackle. But what if they just draft him at 21? They think, oh, he'll be left guard that's going to play left tackle in the future. But then they get him and he's just going to be, he's this elite left guard. Why would he move him? Just leave him at left guard. Then that's still you drafting an interior off the line. Greer does not see interior line as a value position. I see people say that too. And personally, how do we know that? Like, I've never talked to Chris Greer, so I know people, that use all this evidence. We don't know that. So that's honestly what I think. I've never, I just don't think there's enough evidence to really point like he just doesn't value it. There's so many outside factors that can play into why, you haven't drafted a guard early. We saw him draft Robert Hunt in the second round, who's been a right guard. Fatanu, yes, first round, I agree. But I think if they draft Fatanu, he's going to play guard. That's just personally what I'm thinking. I'm loving it, Scotty Joe. You've another good point, Ryder. I think you've said that like 3 times. Has he drafted any? He drafted Robert Hunt. And that was second. I guess, see, that's another one. They drafted him to be a tackle, but he was a guard. That would like them drafting Troy Fatanu. They're going to draft him thinking, yeah, in the first, but there's only been, a handful of drafts. That doesn't, just because you haven't drafted a position in the first round doesn't mean he's not going to take it. I think it's something you can look at and be like, yeah, there's definitely a chance they don't end up taking it, but yeah. I think the Dolphins would be foolish just to be like, yeah, we're not taking Graham Barton because he's a guard in the first round. If he's the best player on the board, you take him. Because I think there's a chance he could be the best player on the board if he is there at 21, depending on how it ends up playing out. But yeah. But I do think Barton's probably the only one that would be like a guard only that they would take. And that's just because I don't think I don't think they're going to take JPJ anymore, Jackson Powers Johnson, because he's a center guard type. I don't think they're going to take him. And I think the rest of the guards are all more like second round players. But I do think they are going to consider Graham Barton if he is there at 21. But it just depends. Maybe, because you could still see like a D tackle on the board, other players, but yeah. But yeah, we talked about pretty much every tackle that I wanted to talk about, unless anyone has any more questions or they missed them. I either want Fatanu and Jenkins in round 1 and 2 or Newens and Haynes. I do like that combo. I like both of these combos, actually. The only problem is I just don't think Fatanu's going to be there. I really wish he was. If Fatanu was there, the NFL has fucked up. I'll be honest. What are they doing? I think he's so good. BPA at a position of need, I agree. I think you just take a best player available. I'm a best player available guy, and you take it out like big positions. It doesn't have to be like necessarily your biggest positions of needs. But yeah. Oh shit, welcome to the Riders. Did I name it the Riders? I don't remember doing that. I think you're my second member ever. What's up, Jose? I totally forgot I even did this. Oh yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate that. But yeah, as I was saying, Fatanu and I would like Jenkins around 2 is not a bad option because he has a lot of upside. I think I like the Newens and Haynes one more though, your second option. just because I think both players would come in right away and be really strong. Well, I'm not saying I like it better. I think it's more likely. I would really like Fitano in round 1. I just don't think he's going to be there. I think Noon would come in right away, be your starter defensive tackle, be an absolute stud. And I think Haynes would come in right away, be your starting right guard, and be an absolute stud, and would be both really good scheme fits and make really big impacts. I just think they're both solid players. How do you feel about the center position? Do you think we need to draft a center? I don't think they're going to take us. I mean, I think they could take a center, but then move him to guard potentially, and then maybe play center in the future. Maybe, they rotate Brewer in and out. But I don't think they're going to do that. Probably not, if I had to guess, because they just don't have enough picks to really target a center. Maybe they do it really late in the draft, but I don't think with one of the early picks they're going to target a center. And if they did, he would probably most likely end up really being a guard for your team. But yeah, they don't have the picks. They signed Brewer. They don't have that big need anymore to take a center. That's like the same how I feel about linebacker. But before free agency, I would have said, yeah, linebacker is definitely a position they're going to go after. But after bringing in Brooks, they also brought in Anthony Walker. I think if linebacker ends up being like a surprise, like stud that they weren't expecting, they could take one. But with the class, how it's shaping out with what they spent in free agency, I don't think it's going to be as much. I mean, Troy kind of small to play tackle, put him at guard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they draft Fitano, I think he's going to be an elite guard at the next level. I do think he has enough size to play tackle and still be fine, but I think he would be a good tackle at the NFL level, but I think he would be a great guard. That's what. Appreciate that, Jose. Thanks for every particular comment. Lots of knowledge I get from you. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Have you evaluated lower round picks at tackle, Frank Crum or Christian Jones? I talked about Christian Jones. I was trying to get film on Frank Crum, so I haven't seen anything on Frank Crum yet, but I plan on watching him. I was trying to get, but there's just nothing I could find, so that will come later on. But yeah, I did talk about Christian Jones earlier. I personally, he's not like my type of player. I don't know if he's a great fit for the Dolphins, just because I think he's a little tight, not the most like fluid athlete. But he does play with high effort and he has really good length, and that guy's a really good run blocker. So yeah, I remember really enjoyed watching him work in the running game, creating some movement, attacking low hips on combo blocks. So yeah, he does a lot of stuff that you could really like in the running game. But I do think he struggled with some athletic things like balance when he lunges and pad level, things like that. Yeah. They have 2 veteran guards on standby. Yeah, I think Barton is 100% agree on the whole first thing. I prefer masters at their position. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking. That's why I think centers are not center. That's why I think guard is an option, because clearly they have guards on standby. So if a guard like Barton ends up being the best player available, they go Barton. But if Barton or if they don't end up getting a guard, like there's another position that ends up being the best player available, let's say Noon's there and they think Noon's better, so they take Noon. Then they can either take guard round 2 or they end up going after a guard in free agency. So that's why I don't think they have to go after guard, but it definitely wouldn't be the worst option. Aaron Brewer is horrible at pass protection. Think Aaron Brewer was a good pickup because he is such a good fit for this scheme. And I think the pass protection, they do a really good job at hiding their guys in pass protection. And there was actually games where he was actually pretty decent. He actually had a pretty good game against Wilkins, surprisingly. But yeah, there is definitely some struggles that he had in pass protection. But yeah. Thoughts on Brandon Coleman at left guard? I will let you. I haven't watched Brandon Coleman fully yet, so I can't give you my full opinion. But I will talk about him in my what's it called stream when I really go in depth on the interior line, because I didn't do that in this video. And I'll talk about players like Fitanu, Barton, JPJ, Christian Haynes, Christian Mahogany, Mason McCormick, Cooper Beebe, Zach Sinter, Dominic Pooney, Brandon Coleman, etc. We'll go into so many different players that I didn't get into today. And then yeah, it'll be fun. We're probably gonna stream the draft too, like just live react to it. We can just watch the draft, chill. People can ask questions, and then we'll see my live reaction to who they end up taking, and hopefully it's someone good. Yeah, this was pretty fun today, guys. Pretty good stream. Went about an hour. Usually that's how long we go. I mean, I'm down to go longer. I just think I talked about every player that I had notes on pretty much at the tackle position. I would say, a lot of the guys that fit really well are probably most likely going to be gone. You never know. Sometimes there's always surprises on draft night. So hopefully they get lucky if they really want to target a tackle that can also play guard for them year 1. and then become, tackle of the future. But yeah, Ryder, this is your fins up. I fucking hope so. Scotty Joe, they'll also be moving away from Chubb next year. Yeah, especially if they take an edge round 1, which I'm definitely like. To me, I'm looking at like this: O-line, D-line, edge, and I think receiver, especially like receiver 3, are like the top 4 options, and they could potentially go after any of them. It just depends. Receiver is another kind of weird one because they have Waddle and Hill, so they have the best duo in the league. But Wilkins, we got your kryptonite. But yeah, they have like the best duo receiver in the league. But after that, they really don't have much. You need Ezukama to develop. Hopefully, he shows up. And I think the reason they could go receiver in the draft is because the class is so good. I don't think they'll go on round 1, but I do think potentially day 2. Especially, I hope that's why I'm hoping they trade back. If they, depending on how the draft shakes out, they trade back, get a pick in like the 3rd or the 4th, maybe both, and they get a receiver in like the 3rd and the 4th. Because I think you're going to still find really good talent at that position in that part of the draft. That's why I hope they end up with a 3rd and a 4th, or a 3rd or a 4th. Really hoping that's how it ends up. Plus, we've seen that they're interested in a 3rd wide receiver with all the stuff. Like with them being interested in Boyd and Odell Beckham Jr. So clearly they're looking for a 3rd, but I do think they should wait until the draft to sign one of those guys. See how it plays out. There's also guys I like at the receiver position that I think it still potentially even get in the 5th. I feel like we could potentially get a wide receiver 3 in the 5th. Yes, that's what I just said. We're on the same page, Robbie. We're on the same page. Like, and there's some guys I think would be like, even like a Anais Smith. You get him, and he kind of, has some running back experience. He would be a receiver. He's kind of, in the same mold. The only problem is, but yeah. I love when you're doing live, so no, we can pick, but when watching your reactions I'm getting blocked for some time now. Love your We Are Back people. Oh man. Guys, when I make those videos, you don't know how many times I used to just like mess up, and I had to restart recording. Now it's like, I can like talk and make the whole video without even stopping at all, especially if I have all the clips done. But yeah, like now the We Are Back people just gets me in the flow, and I just start talking without OBJ too short. We don't need 3 short receivers. I don't know if it's short, but I understand what you're meaning. I think they can add I think Odell fits the system. He gives you some of the things that they don't have, like with the strong hands. But I do think they can, like, if they wanted to go, like, if they end up getting like Xavier Legette at 55, I think that'd be perfect because he still fits within the scheme, but gives you the size and the power that you want. That's why I would be down for a player like that, because he still fits in perfectly. I wouldn't be mad if they took a receiver who ends up being short, because there's still plenty of those players that end up fitting in. When do you think McMillan will fall? Jalen McMillan from Washington, I think he's probably going in like the 3rd round, if I had to guess. Because I think he's probably like a late 2nd round player in my opinion, but I think all the receivers, for the most part, will probably fall like a little bit farther than you expect, at least in that day 2 range, because there's so many good ones and like there's only so many receivers to take. So if I had to guess, since McMillan kind of had some injuries this past year, only really played in the slot, I'm going to think he goes 3rd round, if I had to guess. Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Coker. Hey, if they got Luke McCaffrey in like the 5th, or Jalen Coker even later than that, I would be down. I think those are very intriguing players. I think Luke McCaffrey is very smart, very tough, has the genes of the NFL family, and would definitely be a fun pick. And Coker's got like ridiculous athleticism. I haven't watched, I don't have film on Holy Cross, which is unfortunate, so I can't give like my full on breakdown on Coker. But I've seen some of the clips, I've seen some of the highlights. That guy's got talent, so it would be interesting. Did you watch film on Zach Frazier? Yes. And I will. Do I have Zach Frazier written down here? Don't have Frazier written down. Why do I not have Frazier written down? But yeah, I think Frazier is probably the 2nd best center after Jackson Powers Johnson. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if Frazier went honestly, even before him, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Frazier was a really solid player, and I will definitely talk about him in depth on my Interior Off the Line stream. But yeah, I definitely like his film. Legette won't be there. I agree. Won't fall because of injury, McMillan. No, I was saying, I don't really know what you're saying. I was saying he would fall slightly because of injury, but I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Are you? I'm West Virginia alum. Oh yeah. Yeah, Scott. I feel like I think you brought up Frazier in every stream, Scotty, and I appreciate that. Frazier's my favorite, but I admit I'm biased. No, I think Frazier is pretty good. I think Frazier's a pretty like I would if I haven't done like full on rankings yet. Like if I rated my board, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing Frazier's gonna be like that like little like late 30s range, maybe 40s range. So like early second round player. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of him. Which for a center, that's pretty high. So yeah, he's a good ass player. He's man. Honestly, stream is pretty fun. I don't have to, break down the clips, but breaking down clips is also pretty fun. Which I really enjoy. I just love football so much. Love the draft, love the Dolphins. This is honestly my favorite time of the year is the draft. And I'm really excited to potentially like stream the draft this time around. Especially because it's always fun to just see everyone's reaction to the picks and things like that. And should be fun to see it this time around. So I think LB Eichenberg. Oh yeah. Tommy, right? Liam's brother. He's probably like a mid to late round guy. It'd be pretty funny if they took him late. Stiggers. Oh yeah, I should probably talk before I end the stream. We'll talk about that real quick. They've had like some 30 visits, right? They've had Jarvis Brownlee. I think Kalen Bullock visited today, a safety from USC. Brownlee is a corner from Louisville. They've had Stiggers, who didn't play college ball, is from CFL, so it's hard for me to give a breakdown on him. But like I watched his highlights because I don't have any CFL film, unfortunately, so I don't have like a strong opinion on him. But his highlights look pretty fun. He looks like a great athlete. So I mean, wouldn't mind bringing the guy in like that late. I mean, I'll probably find a way to break it down if they did bring him in. But yeah, definitely interesting. I know they've met with Eric All, the tight end from Iowa, who is like I think a really good talent in this draft and could fall because he's had like some injuries. If they end up getting him later in the draft because he fell because of injuries, I think you take that chance because he's a really good athlete. Tight ends from Iowa always have a good chance of, working out at the NFL level, and I really liked his film. No more Eichenbergs. Honestly, to be fair, I mean, if they brought in Tommy late, like super late, I wouldn't be that mad. But yeah, probably no more Eichenbergs. Yeah. And who else did they bring? Christian Boyd, Northern Iowa, another intriguing D tackle. If you get him, I just don't think they're going to get him because I think he's more of like a round 4 player, maybe a round 3 player even. And Dolphins don't have a 3rd or 4th round pick, so. But yeah, he would be interesting because he's explosive, good one gapper, and I think Dolphins need defensive tackle help, and he wouldn't be the worst to add. I just think he's got really short arms. That's kind of his problem right now. He's got really short arms, so he kind of struggles to stack and shit. I'm a Louisville fan. Brownlee was pretty solid last year. Yeah, Brownlee's interesting to me because I watched it. He definitely plays with confidence. Definitely is very confident, and he can play inside outside. So he's a guy that I think could play nickel and outside if needed. I got Latham, Leggett, and Tyke Smith my last mock draft. That would be great. You get Latham, Leggett, and I love Tyke Smith. Love him. Even when he was on, I was breaking down his film when he was at West Virginia, and that was years ago. That's because I thought he might have even come out years ago. So I've been a fan of him for a while. He's a solid like he's listed as safety. He's more of a nickel guy, but he's a fun player, especially if you get him on like the 5th round. But I don't know how realistic that draft is, Scotty. But it would be a great one. I just don't think it's realistic. Think we are good at tight end? Yeah. I mean, the only reason I'm saying that is like there's certain tight ends that I think like if you get Eric All in round 5, I'm not mad about that because I don't think tight end's technically the biggest need anymore after adding Johnny Smith. But I would not be mad adding a stud like that in the 5th. Penn State tight end Theo Johnson, he's a good player. Don't know if I love him for Miami though, because I do think Miami he's not a terrible run blocker, but I don't think he adds as much after the catch. Like he doesn't have like great contact balance and play strength, which I think the Dolphins look for, like a Jonnu Smith type. But I guess he would be he'd be more like he's more of a Gesicki type. He's not exactly like Gesicki, but he is more of a player like that, as like a pure receiver, seam threat type of player. Another West Virginia guy for me. Oh yeah. He's been playing on Georgia for a few years, but yeah, I remember I'm in West Virginia, and he's one of the best players in this draft at like sniffing out screens. What are your thoughts on Worthy? Like Worthy as a player, I think, obviously the speed is there. I think he's more than just speed. Like he's a good route runner, but I don't necessarily think the Dolphins should be looking in that direction. I think they should go for a different type of receiver. Obviously, he would fit in great into the system. Like he would definitely be a perfect fit. but they already really have similar styles with Hill and Waddle. It depends when you're looking at receivers. Are you looking to kind of replace Hill, or are you looking to like complement Hill and Waddle? Because you kind of already have your Hill replacement in Waddle when Hill leaves. So then it's like, now do we replace Waddle with another Waddle type, or do we replace him with a guy who's kind of a mix, maybe a complement, guys who can do both? Leggett won't make it out of the first round. Yeah, I'm starting to think Leggett's probably like a late first, early second type player. I don't see him getting to 55. What do you think of Sinet? G. Reed, you mentioned my guy. Sinet is probably my favorite tight end in this class. I'm not saying he's the best. Bowers is #1 tight end in this class. Sinet's my favorite guy to watch. I've been on the Sinet train for a while. Now that the Dolphins added Jonnu Smith, I don't think they're going to take Sinet, and I don't think they should, because I do think Sinet's like a second-round pick, in my opinion. I've seen him go later in the draft, but like later in mock drafts, but I think he's going to go higher than people expect. He tested really well, which was even a little surprising for me, and I really like his film. I really like Sinet. I think he's going to be a stud at the next level, but I don't think the Dolphins will end up with him, if I had to guess, because I think he's going to go higher than they would take a tight end in this draft. But yeah, I love this stuff. This is a good time. Is there any more questions before I end up ending it? Not worthy. Yeah, I mean, is worthy? Who knows? I mean, he's definitely a worthy player, but I don't know if the Dolphins should take him. He is more than just speed, though. Some people think he's just speed. He's definitely a pretty good route runner. His hands are an issue, though. Yeah. Thoughts on Persall? Yes, I talked about Persall in my receiver stream not too long ago. I actually have his notes right here. Let's see. Yes, Persall would be an intriguing one. There's like certain guys. There's Persall, like there's like the the guys who are just like Hill and Waddle, like the the Worthies. Who else? Like a Troy Franklin. Those are like in the same vein. Those types of players. Then there's the players who are a little more. They have a little bit, but they're a little more complimentary. They're like a little bit of a mix. I think like Persall. Both Washington receivers, other than Odunze, like Polk and McMillan, would be interesting in Miami, I think, because they're Persall, great body control, makes some crazy plays. You guys seen that one-handed catch? He's a smart player, overall athletic ability, catching traffic. He's tough. He's a solid route runner. I think I like him more. Like I think he can play outside and inside, so he's got that versatility. I do think he's like a solid slot option. Definitely would be intriguing in this offense. He's a little on the thinner side. I don't think he's gonna be like a pure vertical threat outside type guy. I don't think that's where he's going to play. But I do think he can do some like slot fade, stuff like that. And I think he would be actually a pretty fun fit in Miami. Don't think he's like the perfect fit, but if they went that direction, I think it'd be pretty fun. But yeah, probably like I would probably have him ranked around that range as well in like the second round. So. Okay. I think that's where, we're going to end it. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Okay. I'll answer these last two questions. Before you go, thoughts on Christian Haynes. Talked about this earlier. Come on, guys. I'm just kidding. But I love Christian Haynes. Love. Would be one of my favorite options at 55. I think he's a perfect scheme fit, athletic, very smart, plays tough. I will do a video, a film breakdown on him pretty soon. So expect that. Yeah, really big fan. What do you think about Julian Hill future? I like Julian Hill. I don't think Julian Hill makes 53 practice squads here. I think Julian Hill makes 53, if I had to guess. Actually, I think they really like Julian Hill just because I like Julian Hill, but I think the Dolphins really like Julian Hill just from reading between the lines. He's definitely brings a lot of toughness. I actually think he might be the best run blocking tight end on the roster. I'm not even kidding. I think Smythe plays a little more consistency, but Julian Hill is out there creating movement. So I think they're invested in him, and I don't think he's ever going to be like a great tight end or anything, but I do think he's a solid, potential solid number 2 to have on the team, and right now a pretty solid number 3. Yeah. Okay. We'll do some more streams in the future. Appreciate you guys. Peace. Ending the